So Wisconsin and Michigan have a date set up on Valentine's Day at the Kohl Center. We all remember the slap heard around the world when Juwan Howard slapped Wisconsin assistant coach Joe Krabbenhoft.
Happy about that timeout. Yo, and Juwan Howard just threw a right hand.
And two of my favorite things to do on this channel is to talk about combat sports and college basketball. Two of my favorite things. And we're going to talk about who's going to win the fight, Joe Krabbenhoft or Juwan Howard. If they were placed in the cage, placed in the octagon, who's going to win that? And to recap it real quickly, last year, Juwan Howard had some of his rotational players, full court pressing Wisconsin, who was deep into their bench when Wisconsin had the game won. Michigan was about to get a 10-second call called against Wisconsin because the walk-ons were struggling to bring the ball up past half court. And Gard called a timeout to reset that 10-second count. And Howard took exception to that, told Gard, hey, I won't forget about that. Gard kind of grabbed him, tried explaining why he called the timeout. Howard wanted no part of it. He grabbed Gard by his shirt, and then they were separated. Some pushing, some shoving, some words were exchanged, and then he slapped Joe Krabbenhoft. And then later he ended up calling Joe Krabbenhoft Joel in his apology, which I got to admit, that is pretty funny. I don't know if that was a troll or just a typo, but the PR team and Juwan Howard, I don't know how that happens, but that Juwan Howard said he wasn't pressed. He's just a pressure 5 defense.
Why keep the press on against Wisconsin's backups at that point?
It wasn't a press. It was just 5 pressure defense, man-to-man. That's what 5 is for us.
He said he felt the need to defend himself from Gard after Gard touched him.
Oh, yeah, it was more than that. Yeah. Touching me unnecessary wasn't cause for that when we were talking. And at that point, I thought that was, time to protect myself.
And I understand where he's coming from. Gard's got that 5'11", Cobb, Wisconsin scrap to him. So, hey, I'd be pretty afraid of him, too, if I was a 6'9", 240-pound former professional NBA player. But anyways, this isn't about Gard. It's about Joe Krabbenhoft and Juwan Howard. If they were placed in the octagon, who wins? And to start, let's look at the film. I tried finding more film on Juwan Howard fighting. There really isn't anything other than talking. The slap is the most we have. There was talking between him and Maryland's coach Mark Turgeon in the 2021 Big Ten tournament. They had to be separated. Same thing in the NBA. One time he pushed a guy in the back. Maybe he was on the ass. I don't know exactly, but he was on the Miami Heat. But a bunch of talking with a bunch of guys in between him and the guy he's talking with. And then the tape we have for Joe Krabbenhoft is his senior year against Purdue. Lewis Jackson was full court pressing Trayvon Hughes, and Krabbenhoft let off the crab hammer and totally decked Lewis Jackson. And now what was impressive about that screen was there was no wasted movement from Joe Krabbenhoft. Was it a dirty play? Yes. I don't condone that screen, but talking about the movement, he had no wasted movement. He was efficient. He got his hips into it, and he really leaned into it, and he decked Lewis Jackson with a really powerful elbow. And so based off of film, you got to give the edge to Joe Krabbenhoft. Juwan Howard, his initial gut instinct when he's upset was to slap another man. That's not ideal. You want to don't touch, you don't want to be touching. You don't want to be assaulting people to begin with, but an open hand slap, really, with 3 people between you where there's going to be no repercussions. He kind of has that classic basketball player. Oh yeah, I want to fight, but hold me back first before I really start acting like I want to fight. He knew there was going to be no repercussions for that punch, or pardon me, that slap. And then moving to the tail of the tape, Juwan Howard is 50 and Joe Krabbenhoft is 35. Juwan Howard, 6'9", 240 pounds to Joe Krabbenhoft's 6'7", 220, 225-ish. I don't have their wingspans, but obviously Juwan Howard probably has a sizable reach advantage on him, being a 6'9" center and being able to play in the NBA, I believe from like 94 to 2011. I could be off a year or two on that, but that's impressive to have that longevity, and you got to have some length to you. And so I think he's definitely got a reach advantage, even though we don't have their wingspans on record. The biggest thing to circle is the age difference, 50 versus 35. If you look at the UFC, Kamaru Usman, the welterweight champion, he's 35. and I know he might be number 1 or 2 in the pound for pound ranking. He was number 1 for a long time. But there's champions around 35, 36, 34 in boxing and MMA. But there's no champions at 50 years old. So I think Father Time is huge in this matchup. If you're Juwan Howard talking about the strategy to win, you want to use that reach to your advantage. You want to pop him with that jab. Don't let him get close. And then maybe, hit him with a little combination after you pop out the jab a few times, hit with overhand right, throwing some hooks, little 1-2s. Try to keep him at bay. Don't let him get on the inside. If you're Krabbenhoft, you got to flip that. You got to get on the inside, probably absorb a blow or two and try getting to the body, maybe go for the takedown. And we all know he's got those ferocious elbows. So maybe hit him with some elbows. Joe Krabbenhoft, for people to remember, he was an enforcer at Wisconsin. Not the talented player that Juwan Howard was, but the dude was a tough guy. He was not afraid to get chippy, scrappy, and he was an enforcer, as we see with that clip against Purdue. He did that to set the tone in the game. It was a dirty play, no doubt, but the dude was tough. There's no doubting that, and I'm going to have to, if I had to pick who's going to win, I'm going to have to pick Joe Krabbenhoft because of that age difference. And I do want to mention one other thing about Joe Krabbenhoft is that he was very prone to cuts at Wisconsin. I think he had like over 100 stitches or something wild like that, if my memory is correct. The dude would get cut all the time on his face, on his neck. And I think that could play a role in this fight. If Howard can land some decent punches on him, does Krabbenhoft get cut? Could it obstruct vision? Could it be something that's messing with them mentally? So that's something to consider. But overall, I got to roll with Joe Krabbenhoft because the Father Time is undefeated. If they're fighting their primes, we'll have a different discussion. But Joe Krabbenhoft is taking that fight against Juwan Howard. That's my opinion. A very, you probably didn't gain much from watching this video, but I had fun recording it. So if this is your first video with me, make sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned for more college basketball content. Thank you.